Hi everyone, thank you for watching this video. Today I wanted to do a quick review of this module, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden, and maybe do a short kind of discussion, or maybe my take on how newer dungeon masters, or people who are new to the game, or maybe new to being a dungeon master, how can they take this hefty tome, 320 pages, and approach it in a way that really help them get into the game, have a fun session, and a session in which everyone happy without all the anxiety of am I getting it right, am I doing it right, how do I kind of digest all of this information and have a great game. So this is kind of what this video is all about, and at the end I'll talk a little bit about what I think about the OGL controversy and how I approach dungeon mastering in the era of all this upheaval with regards to what's happening with the game right now. So with regards to Rime of the Frostmaiden, what is it? So first, it's a very large book. It is a campaign setting and an adventure model at the same time. So basically the first couple of chapters are all about describing this region called Icewind Dale, and afterwards you get a lot of information about how to run the actual campaign. The actual campaign will take your players' characters from level 1 to level 10 roughly, and it has 7 chapters, so there's a lot of information here. Also included in this model are basically 3 kind of stories, 3 campaign arcs, let's call it this way, and they kind of intertwine, or they compose into one big story, and I think this is really interesting. And you can run it as a horror story or as a survival story, especially in the first few levels. So this is what it is. There will be no spoilers in this video, so feel free to kind of watch it, and your players can watch it as well. So how do I approach to prepping such a big campaign? And actually this is relevant for Curse of Strahd, for all the other modules that Wizards of the Coast kind of published recently. They follow this pattern of, here is a short section that describes the world or the region or the area, and here is the actual adventure model. And all the latest books that at least I purchased from them are pretty big. So how do you approach it with regards to prepping this model? So just kind of my working assumption here is that if you watch this video, you are new or relatively new to DMing. So I will talk as if I'm giving some advice to people who are new to this. So first thing first, it's a big book. I wouldn't jump and try to read everything and comprehend everything before I start to DMing it. So it's rather big. There's a lot going on, a lot of locations, a lot of NPCs, a lot of as I said, 3 story arcs. So there is a lot to digest, and especially if you also have to kind of still learn the ropes with regards to DMing, like read the Dungeon Master's Guide or the player's handbook. So it's a lot of material. So what I would do is to start small. I wouldn't read all the book. I wouldn't, what happens on page 200, it's not really important for the first couple of sessions of this game. So what I would do is simply start with the first 2 chapters. And the first 2 chapters, the first chapter, or let's say the first kind of 10 pages, they basically explain what this book is all about, what this story is all about. The first chapter is called 10 Towns, and it's simply a gazetteer. It describes the region in which the model will take place, at least its beginning. And the second chapter is all about Icewind Dale, so the region around 10 Towns. So I would just start with the first 2 chapters, meaning the first 10 pages that simply explain what this book is all about, and the first actual chapter, which is called 10 Towns, and it is something like 90 pages. So it's a third of the book, and it's not that difficult to kind of digest, read, etc. What you get for each description of a town, as I said, there are 10 of them. You basically get kind of, this is the town, these are the NPCs that are important for what's going on in that town. You get a map, right, a pretty good one, and you get a description of things that can happen when the characters are exploring that specific town. So as I said, if you begin small, then all you really need to do is to decide where you want to begin the campaign, on which town, and simply read that entry. It's 4 pages. And if you look at the map that kind of describes how the characters can go from one town to another, you really want to look at kind of the 3 most relevant towns, the towns that the player characters can kind of move from where you decided to start the campaign. So you only really need to read the pages that are related to what the story is all about, and then focus on the town that you'll begin the campaign at, and then read the entries for the town surrounding it. And basically, that's it for the first couple of sessions. It's not a lot of information. You can kind of dig in and focus and be conscious of your time, so you don't have to go really wide and read all of the information in this book when you begin the campaign. So this is kind of my advice with regards to how to manage all this material. Once you decided on which town you want to focus, my advice then would be to start with the action. So basically, the story starts with a lot of hooks for the player characters to kind of bite into and decide what they want to do. If I would just begin DMing and this would be my first model that I would run, I won't do that. I would start the campaign with, here is the mission, here is something that your characters agreed to do. Let's assume that you decided as a DM that the characters agreed to explore a cave complex because one of the villagers' kids was lost there. Let's assume this is one of the hooks. I would start by saying, you agreed to do this on behalf of the townspeople. Here's the cave complex. Here's the entrance. What do you want to do? Like, you were already there. We are starting from the action. And the reason is that, especially in the beginning, it's really difficult to kind of be that DM that can, improvise and think about all the NPCs and think about all the hooks and kind of portray them in a way that gives a feeling of a living, breathing world. It's kind of daunting and it's kind of big for, a first-time DM, in my opinion. So I would start with the action. Like, remove everything else. This is the cave complex. This is the entrance. Go. And yes, some players will kind of say that you are railroading them, meaning that you kind of decided where the story goes and they have nothing to say about it. I would say that yes, it's true, but it's okay for a first session or maybe even the second. I would say that it's fine. And you can even say it like, we're starting where I'm comfortable with, bear with me, and it will, be better as we move forward with the story. So read just the first chapter, focus on one town, learn it, decide which hook you want to kind of expand into the first session or two, and start with the action. This is what I would do if I would kind of begin and run this model. My 2 cents. After that, like after you've done that, you took the first city or town, you read about it, you know the map, you know the NPCs, you picked up a hook, you understand exactly what's going on. If the characters follow that hook to the point, that's great. After I've done that, I would think about the unexpected. And what do I mean by the unexpected is what happens if the players decide to do something like really off. Let's assume that you've put your players in the position of, here's the cave complex, there's a lost kid there, go save him. And one of the players say, hey, I've got a familiar, it's an owl or it's a raven or whatever. I simply send him inside and have him find the kid, right? Or what happens if the players say, well, is there someone in town who is very familiar with this cave complex? Maybe we can ask him for a map of this place. Or they might say, well, it's obviously one of one of the villagers' kids. Maybe we can get his family to help us explore the caves, or whatever. It's about you thinking of scenarios that can happen that to you are unexpected. They're not scripted. The book doesn't say that, hey, this is what to do if the players decide to do this or that. And I would think about those scenarios, write them down, and write, what would be your reaction if that happens. And I think this is where I would say my ability to improvise came from. I'm not a very good improviser. I just try to think about the unexpected and write little sentences that kind of respond to that. So for example, you might say, if the players say, hey, is there someone with a map here? So you might actually say, hey, actually there is someone with a map. You just need to find him and maybe convince him to give you the map. Maybe you need to pay for it. Maybe he'll ask you for a service, or maybe he is angry on the villager whose kids was lost, and he doesn't want to cooperate or whatever. But it's kind of a short scenario that can help you, A, move the story forward, B, don't say, no, there's simply not that, there isn't a map, because again, the players feel like you kind of confined them. And it's also a good practice, for yourself, how to deal with the unexpected. And it's a good step toward improvising stuff. So this is what I would do. Take a page, write a few scenarios, like what might happen if, and fill them in. When you do that, practice saying yes to whatever the players throw at you. And again, I'm assuming that you're playing with a bunch of people who are into the game. They're not trying to derail it. They're not trying to be kind of obnoxious. They're trying to do something cool. For example, the player who thought about getting a map isn't trying, I'm hoping, to derail the campaign or simply go around the challenge that you have presented to them. He's trying to kind of think of cool ways to make the story move forward. And it's actually clever. Like, if there's a map, why should we simply wander in the darkness? So I would say practice saying yes as much as possible to whatever those players throw at you. Is there a map? Yes, but you have to go get it. Can the family of the kid who was lost, can they help you? Can they help us? Yes, but they're not warriors and priests and fighters. They'll need protection as you take them in. They'll gladly do it. So practice saying yes to whatever they throw at you. It's one of the best ways to engage your players and make them feel that they matter in the game, like their suggestions, their offers, their ideas are important to the game. And again, 99% of the time they are trying to make things interesting. Like during combat, if the thief or the rogue asks you, hey, are there trees around? He's probably thinking of a cool maneuver, maybe to hide behind them or climb on top of them or whatever. He's not trying to simply be interested if there are trees in the area. So practicing, yes. That said, it doesn't mean that the player simply gets what he wants. So there are trees, yes, but they're tall. You need to roll to kind of climb on top and do your thing. Is the map available? Yes, but you have to kind of work a little bit to get it. So think about those asks of your players as opportunities to either do some fun role-playing encounter, or yes, get them what they want to do, but with kind of a tweak, your tweak on top of it. And again, it's your call as the DM to decide if you want to say no. Sometimes players will ask you stuff that is there a magic shop in town? Do they have like freebies? Well, no. So think about it. Think about the unexpected, and think about ways to say yes to suggestions your players put on the table, and how can you turn them into opportunities for role playing. So this is kind of my second advice with regards to how to prep this. Another way of making sure everyone have fun is to think about ways to treat the players as heroes. So maybe they got into the cave entrance, and the family is with them because they convinced them to help and join the search. So that family might wander around them wide-eyed. Oh my God, this is so amazing! You can do those spells. You can walk in the shadows undetected. Oh my God, you defeated that monsters inside. You are simply amazing, and you're doing it all because of us, because our kid got lost in there. We really hope that we'll find him alive. And when when the players do find the kid alive, oh my God, you are the heroes. We'll tell everyone in the village about you. We'll invite you to a meal. We'll have a party, whatever. So the players are the heroes of the campaign. It doesn't have to be as corny as I just described it, but the premise is the players are the heroes. The world, stuff happens in the world without the players being involved in it, but whatever the players touch, this is something that the world should react to, preferably, in a good way. So think about ways to make the players the heroes of the story and the heroes of the game. Shouldn't be the NPCs, shouldn't be, the villain. And the last piece of advice I would give before you kind of start your first or second session, and this is something that I've done a lot, I'm always preparing one or two out of the blue encounters. What I mean by that is, let's assume that you have 2 hours of playtime or 3 hours of playtime around you, and you mapped everything and you have everything prepared, and then suddenly the players decide to do something completely different and go, to a completely another direction, and you find yourself in a situation in which you need to kind of basically invent a whole session on the fly. Or there's some dead time in the game. Maybe the players reached one of the towns and they simply want to do shopping, which is fine. And then they want to kind of interact with the NPCs, and it's fine. Like, you have 40 minutes of role playing and shopping, etc. But then you feel that the table is kind of a little bit bored. People kind of start, looking at their mobiles. What can you do to kind of make everyone pay you attention and start moving the story forward? Boom, you put an out of the blue encounter on the table. So the way I do it is, every once in a while I just sit and write what I call those out of the blue encounters. It can be a combat encounter, it can be a role-playing encounter, it can be a mystery encounter, but it's basically a way for me to get everyone back together, have some action or fun, and then, release the tension and allow them to do whatever they want. So if we are in a shopping scenario, I might say that, one of the players is spotting a thief, trying to, pick the wares of one of the shopkeepers. Or again, if it's a city environment, maybe a shop explodes. What happened? Maybe they see someone important being arrested by the local militia. If it's a wilderness encounter or a wilderness setting, they might see a strange monster, or they might encounter a ranger, or hear shouts. I mean, whatever it is, the goal of that out of the blue encounter, it doesn't have to be tied to the story. It's simply a way to get everyone's attention. Roll some die, have this role-playing encounter or combat encounter, and now that everyone are kind of in the game again, you can help them steer the story forward. And again, each such encounter should be something like 30 minutes. So maybe a very short combat encounter or a very short role-playing encounter. And I have, when I begin a session, I have one or two of these kind of ready. And as the campaign moves along, I simply kind of, build this folder of out of the blue encounters, and I can pull one of those if ever needs be. So this is how I would prep for running this model. So I would start small. I would pick one town. I'll learn it really deep to kind of understand what's going on there, who are the NPCs, what are the hooks that the players might bite into, what are the next steps. I mean, if the characters decide to kind of travel between the towns, what are the next couple of towns? So keeping all the material really small so I can easily digest it. I would plan for the unexpected by writing down, what if the players did that? Here is my response. As doing that, I would practice saying yes as much as possible. What happens if the characters decide to send their familiars instead of exploring the cave themselves? Yes, but this is what happens. Okay, now we are switching and you are playing your familiars. So yes, and you can add your thing to it. And treat the players and the characters as heroes, because they are. And prepare one or two out of the blue encounters in case you just need them. And I think that this will summarize my prep for the first session. And it sounds a lot of work. It is, but you don't have to do that from session to session, because if you prepared for the first session, that prep will help you run the second and the third. And you'll find that, yes, you're investing time from session to session, but it's kind of constant. So this is my advice with regards to how to prep this. I want to talk a little bit about why this is how I prep for, or why, yes, I do prep like this, but why this is my advice for basically, all of the DMs out there. The reason is that as a dungeon master or the host of any game, doesn't matter if it's D&D or something else, you only need to be one or two steps ahead of the players. So think about it this way. When your players, they start to run this, maybe they know a little bit about what's going on, but they haven't read all this book, hopefully. So it means that they don't know what happens on page 78. Well, if you are, right now on page 40, then as the DM, you know what happens on page 78. All I mean by that is that you have the ability, as the dungeon master, to kind of look into the future, and your players doesn't have this ability. So you don't have to be so far ahead of the group that you're, thinking about totally another game. You always need to be just one or two steps ahead of them. And if you limit the amount of information that you need to kind of digest from session to session, this will allow you to do exactly that. All you need to do is know what happens if the players decide to go that way or that way or that way. They don't know what happens there. So limiting the session's scope is helping you to kind of focus on the immediate, what you need right now to run the session. And again, your players, this is all they care about, like the right now. And you'll be able to kind of focus on what happens next. And if you'll do that, if you'll keep being 1 or 2 steps ahead of your players, the game will flow much easier, and they will get the sense that, you own it. You know what's going on, you know the world, you know the story, you know the NPCs, and you know how they react to stuff. And it's kind of an illusion that, you have everything in your mind. You actually don't, because, as I said, you didn't read all of this. So it's kind of an illusion, but it's an illusion that actually works, and it allows you to basically play the same game as your players instead of thinking about encounters that will happen 5 sessions from now. So that's one. Again, if you're 1 step or 2 step ahead of your players, even if they do something really strange, they probably won't have the resources to jump over what right? I mean, even in this campaign, they basically travel from one town to another, and Icewind Dale. So it's freezing, it's winter, it's difficult to travel from one town to another. So the chances of them hopping around 10 towns in one session, it's simply not possible. So all you have to do is worry, for example, about the first 4 towns that surround the location that you are right now. And if you'll do that, it will be much easier for you to run the game. Narrowing down the amount of information also really helps you prepare for that first session. Like, know the NPCs, know their goals, their how they look, what they want from the players' characters. So it will really help you to focus and internalize the material in a way that doesn't have to send you flipping through the book when someone is asking you a question. And again, I think it's really important, makes the game a lot smoother, and also lets the players know that, hey, you've got this. So that's one. And I also recommended starting with the action, again, to avoid a situation in which players lose their kind of focus or are spending too much time debating what is the next step. Again, this is fine later on during the game. Some of those decisions might be important, but for the first session or the second one, you want the players to focus on the here and now, roll some die, have fun, and not wander around too much, but simply follow the baby steps of the first steps of the story. So this is it. This is basically my advice, and I hope that it really helped you. It will really help you to kind of run smoother games, especially if you are starting out, and especially if you start out as a DM by running one of those huge books. It's definitely possible. You just need to ease into it. So that's my advice to you. With regards to the OGL controversy, so here are my thoughts, and it's kind of went in parallel to what's happening right now. If you're not sure what the controversy is all about, basically, when Wizards of the Coast published D&D version 3, they also published this agreement in which you can actually use some of the mechanics or monsters or whatever from the system, as long as you give them credit for that, and then you can publish your own material. I never published anything substantial, so I'm not really affected by it, and I'm assuming that a lot of tables are not really affected by it. However, some of the discussion is about Wizards of the Coast wanting to change this agreement in a way that helps them be the owners of D&D and helps them probably make more money out of the brand. And again, I'm not against that. It's a company, they should profit. It's their thing. What I'm concerned about is how my game is affected by it. As you see, I I buy the books, so I'm happy with the products they produce. What I'm less happy about is how much dependent we have become on technology to run the game. So if you're using D&D Beyond, for example, you have the players, your character sheet there, all the monsters, encounter builders, etc. I'm worried about being forced to either pay a premium for these tools, and some story leaked that they want people to pay like $30 per month for using D&D Beyond. And again, that's their decision. If that's their decision, I'm fine with it. If people want to pay, they'll pay. If not, they won't. The question I'm asking is, how am I affected by it? Like, will I be able to run the game as I want it if I don't have those tools? Can I build a 5th edition or 6th edition or D&D 1, whatever, character without using those digital tools in a way that is, quick and not overly complex? And this is where I'm a little bit worried. I've been playing D&D for a long time, started with, basic, went to advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th. So I have an example here of, this is an AD&D character sheet. It's a first level thief, and it took me something like 7 minutes to, generate the character, using nothing but the books and some, pencil and an eraser. So if I'm playing AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not limited by any tool or software to kind of run my game. I'll just show you, like, if I need a map, I don't have a problem drawing it. I don't have a problem, sketching stuff on paper. My DM's notes, when I run a book, when I run a campaign, I have this book. You can see there's no magic in it. I just I just write stuff down. These are my notes. So I try not to use a computer at the table. I did for a long time, and what I found is, people are talking to me. We are in the middle of this scenario or this role-playing encounter, and I'm either typing at the computer or searching for stuff because, it's there. So I found out that without it, I'm looking at my, players' faces, and this is where I think as a DM I should be. And what I'm seeing, even right now, all of my players have their characters on D&D Beyond. So when we are playing, their eyes are on, the computer screen. And I began to kind of worry about, the direction the game might go if, we have a VR in it, or if we have any expectation that you cannot really generate a character without the online tool, or you cannot really play the game without all the online material that you have. So this gets me a little bit worried. So my thought is, I'm going to play the game using nothing but pen and paper. I'm not talking about prep time. Saving stuff on the computer is fine. But when I run the campaign or the game, I need a book, maybe. I need my notebook, and maybe I need some maps that I prepped, pen and pencil. If D&D would go to a direction in which this is not possible anymore because of the game's complexity, then I will simply pick an edition that allows that, and I'll continue run it. This is my personal take on this. And again, I don't have a strong opinion with regards to publishing content and allowing that. I'm not a publisher myself. I can understand the outrage, but I'm not really part of it. I, as a player, as a DM, all I care about is, will I be able to play the game without paying a monthly fee to a company? Because I can pay it, it's fine. but I would rather not, and I would rather play a game that is pen and paper with a bunch of friends, look them in the eye as we are playing instead of looking at a computer screen. But again, that's me. That's my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you feel otherwise, or if you feel I'm totally missing out. So that's it for today. So thank you again for watching. Please let me know in the comments if what I said made sense to you. Also, if you have any advice with regards to prepping those huge models for a new DMs, put them in the comments as well. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.